Hey guys, in this video I want to talk to you a little bit about setting expectations for opening a Shopify store. And a lot of this actually applies as well if you're starting to sell on Amazon. But I'm just going to talk about it in terms of Shopify right now. And as you ask questions and leave comments, I will come back and respond to those where it pertains to Amazon, just to fill in any blanks or anything that you may have. But my minimum expectation when I start a Shopify store is $1 million a year in sales. A lot of you are probably going, whoa, 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 whoa. You just expect to do $1 million a year in sales. Well, no, I don't expect it. It's a question of, if I open a Shopify store, I know what it takes in terms of time and energy on my part to get that store up and running, to run ads, to select products, to do all the things necessary to start that store. Now, I'm not trying to paint a picture here that this is something that takes me 16 hours a day for 3 months to get up and running. It doesn't. I can open a Shopify store and have it looking really sharp and have good looking photographs, videos, pictures, you name it. I can have that store just killing it in a matter of a few days, and they're not even 16-hour days. It probably takes me, I've never done the math on it, but I'm going to say no more than 40 hours of actual hands-on involvement to set up a Shopify store to the point where my expectation is that store will make $1 million, or will sell $1 million in product in 1 year. A lot of you are still sitting there going, wait a minute, how can you be so sure? Well, the reason I'm sure is I go into the process, again, with the expectation that this store will make $1 million. That expectation is my cost of entry, if you will. If you came to me and said, hey, let's set up a store, and I said, well, how much do you think the store will do? And you tell me, well, I think we can do $100,000 the first year. I'm not going to be a part of that venture. It's just not worth my time and effort, because I can do something on my own that will make more, or that I think has a greater chance of making more. When you start off with this expectation that the store will do $1 million in business, it impacts every decision you make. It impacts how much time and effort you're willing to put into taking pictures. Good product pictures. It impacts how much time and energy you're willing to put into your description. It impacts how much time and energy you're willing to put into setting up the site so it looks really, really good. Again, all of us have the same mindset. We just don't realize it. We all have a price tag, and what you're willing to do to set up a site that you aren't even sure if it's going to succeed or not is not as much as I'm willing to do to set up a site when I think it's going to sell $1 million. Since I have a history of setting up $1 million sites, I feel pretty comfortable now just following kind of a standard course, a template, if you will, and doing the same thing over and over, but just making sure I execute properly on every step of the process. One of the things I do when I'm selecting products for this $1 million site, and I've touched on this in other videos, but there have been some questions about people not understanding what I really mean when I say upsell or a downsell or kind of a sideways horizontal sell, if you will. Let's say I am selling, I'm trying to pick something I know nothing about just so I can kind of run on this for a little bit. But let's say I'm selling saddles for a horse, for people that are interested in riding horses. So say I'm selling saddles, and lo and behold, this person buys a saddle, they put in their shopping cart. Okay, they haven't bought it yet, but they put in their shopping cart. When they put that into their shopping cart, I'm going to have a box pop up and say, hey, people that have bought saddles like this have also bought these other things. And I'm going to have another couple of things shown to them. It may be some type of bridle for the horse. It may be some type of decorative accessory for the saddle. Ideally there's going to be 2 or 3 things that I show across a fairly broad price range. You're going to have like higher priced product, a medium priced product, and a really inexpensive product. Just to say, hey, people that bought that have also bought this. Are you interested? And assuming they say no, okay, that's fine. Well, then they go ahead, they complete the purchase on the saddle, and they're going to get another pop-up box basically saying, hey, how about this as well? Here's a horse blanket. Here is, and they're going to have an opportunity for a couple of more items. So what I'm looking for when I choose, I think in terms of a primary item and a secondary item. What I'm looking for in my primary item, for me, is typically an item that sells for several $100s up to maybe $1,000. Now, I have stores that sell things that are into the $20,000, almost $30,000 range, but I'm not talking about that here. I'm talking about just a more run-of-the-mill, day-to-day store. I really want to be somewhere in maybe the $300 to $800 range on what I call a primary item. That is an item that by itself I want to sell $100,000 worth of over the course of a year. Okay. Then I'm going to have these associated items that are available, and what I'm looking for from those items are items that I think I can sell $50,000 worth of over the course of a year. So I may have, all in all, say 4 associated items. So those 4 items combined, I'm looking for $200,000 a year in sales on, or something close to that. And then the primary item, I'm looking for $100,000 a year from it just by itself. So just that cluster of items right there, moving forward over the course of a year, I'm looking for something around $300,000 out of that cluster of items. Okay, so my Shopify stores are set up where I have multiple clusters. It may not be apparent to the shopper who comes onto the site, but there's typically 3 or 4 clusters on one of my sites. I don't want to go too far beyond that because then I end up selling a lot of stuff and it's hard to kind of keep things under control. But I want to have 3 or 4 clusters of items, and each cluster is expected to carry its own weight and generate on average about $300,000 a year in sales. What I usually find is that the $300,000 mark is a little bit low, actually. Occasionally I'll have a cluster that doesn't perform well, and maybe it only gets $200,000 over the course of a year. But then I'll have other clusters, the other 2 clusters on that store or in that store may outperform, and they may do $350,000 or $400,000 each, or even more. But normally the clusters actually do more than I expect out of them. And when I go back and look at the analytics and look at my actions over the course of a year or over the course of a quarter, usually, I usually find that if I have products on a site that are lagging, it's due to the way I'm running ads. It's not due to the product or some saturation in the market or competition. It's usually due to the way I'm running my ads. So I just wanted to throw that out there. There should be enough in this video to generate a number of questions and a number of comments. But again, I didn't come into this video saying, oh, look at me, I'm setting up $1 million stores. I really want to show you that a $1 million store is not a big deal. I know people that have $10 million stores. Let me rephrase it. I know people that have stores that sell in excess of $10 million a year. I know people, myself included, who have multiple $1 million stores. So it's not that's not some goal that you should say, hey, I'm going to do this in 5 years. There are people that just get this, where everything I've just said resonates with them, and they start their first store, and maybe they do $100,000 in the first 6 months. they kind of fill in some of the blanks, they kind of learn their way around, and then they start a second store, and that second store crushes it. And they do 1 or 1.2 or 1.4 million dollars in the first year on that second store. So this is not something that takes years of experience to really get a handle on. And it's not something that you should put out there as some kind of unachievable goal. $1 million store is a very reasonable target. As long as your product selection is right, and by right in this case I largely mean you're not trying to sell $5 and $10 trinkets. You're selling things that are more substantial in value, and that allows you to cluster other items, associated items with them. $1 million a year in sales should be kind of your baseline for getting involved, as it is mine. So if you haven't done so already, please hit like and subscribe. Leave comments below, ask questions, and we'll see you in the next video.